Few people nowadays remember Charles Barkley's playing days or some of the things that he did outside of it. He did a commercial spot where he said, "I'm not a hero." Yep, that's what he said. He said he wasn't a hero. And it hit hard. And it showed that Charles Barkley was not your common athlete. He was willing to speak his mind, and when you got to listening to him, you got to realizing he was worth listening to. If not, or if for anything other than just his entertainment value. But he still does have some great points, but he also covers it with a great sense of humor. Well, you all know what? I think Sophie Cunningham is a WNBA's Charles Barkley. I have listened to her podcast. I have listened to her talk. And yes, she is serious, but she also knows how to have fun with what she's talking about. And it's relatable. And she doesn't do this WNBA political correctness. So we're going to talk about how she really is good for the league beyond just what she does for Caitlin Clark, but how she should have been noticed already. So let's get into it.
Hey folks, this is Paul with Redneck Sports. I want to thank you for viewing my video, and I want to give you one thought process. There was a famous coach at the University of Tennessee by the name of General Robert Nealon. He had 6 maxims, but number 2 maxim is what everybody should apply to their life. Play for and make the breaks. When one comes your way, score. That's how to live your life right there.
So the first thing that I want to get into is this. The WNBA needs some personalities. The folks that they've got right now, they're either covering up their personality or they just don't really care. I mean, seriously, it doesn't come across like they're relatable in any way, shape, or form. You listen to them, and it's like they're all trying to cut from the same script. They're trying not to be offensive in any way, shape, or form, unless it's towards a certain political side. But even then, they don't really sound offensive. They try to keep that political mentality while also trying to stay out of any kind of controversy. We all know what they're wanting to say. We all know their thought process and all of this, but at the same time, they have no personality. I mean, honestly, it's like you might as well have a robot doing this. I mean, seriously, you might as well have some robots out there shooting the basketball. Actually, they might actually do better defense. They might actually shoot better. It might actually be more enjoyable then. But seriously, though, joking aside or anything like that, it's like watching drones. You know, you watch these old sci-fi shows and everything like that, and you're going, what in the world am I watching here? And then you listen to them get interviewed or listen to them talk, and it's just like they're all cut from the same cloth. They all sound alike, basically. It doesn't matter their skin color, they all sound alike. It's just like, and when they get out there and play, it's like, and which also brings to mind what you hear when you heard the Sue Bird interview with Caitlin Clark. But in this case, Sophie Cunningham doesn't mind brawling, which I'm not a big fan of inside the league. But right now, Caitlin Clark's needing somebody on her side that's willing to go toe to toe with these people. But Sophie Cunningham, at the same time, you could imagine her doing that same speech that Charles Barkley did about, I'm not a hero. Or no, I'm not a role model. Pardon me. I'm not even going to go back and correct that because it makes me feel bad that I did that. But she's not trying to be a role model. She's just out there saying what she wants to say, playing ball the way she wants to play it, and she's doing it in a manner that is worth watching. She's worth listening to. Basically, she's the person that you want to have. I mean, seriously, you want to have her out there representing a team. But the front office of WNBA doesn't like her because, well, she speaks her mind and she's not one of the automatons. And it's nice to see Charles Barkley, when he did what he did, it brought a different perspective for everybody. It caused everybody to look at sports differently and athletes differently. And it was well worth, what he brought to the table. He didn't have to be a role model to do these things. Well, Sophie Cunningham isn't trying to be a role model. You don't hear her saying that she's trying to be that. What you're seeing is that she's out there playing her game, she's being herself, she dresses sexy, but gets out there and does tomboy things. The WNBA needs that. And I can imagine that she's making multiple people angry. But you know what? You need her and you need Caitlin Clark. You need somebody like her next to Caitlin Clark. Why? Because you know what they're going to do. So, yeah, I really do think this is a good thing for the WNBA. But if they probably don't. I've talked about Cameron Brink on this channel. And if you haven't heard me talk about her, well, she's someone that I enjoy. She's somebody who I think's got the right pedigree. I may not agree with the politics, but she's got this sweet little podcast. And that's what it is. She comes across as a sweet person, and her seems to be of that same personality. I enjoy listening to her just because it's calming and everything like that. Sophie Cunningham, I listen to that girl and I'm like, yeah, she played in the SEC. And she doesn't hold back, which so many of these players, yeah, they just sound the same. And it's so refreshing. It really is. It's so refreshing to hear the way that her personality comes through. And it's a personality that you can imagine she's, great at parties. She's probably fun to deal with. She's far more real than a lot of these players are. And I mean, Aaliyah Boston has a little bit of that, but not quite like Sophie Cunningham. Sophie Cunningham's on a whole different league. She is on that Charles Barkley level of she don't care. And no, I'm not going to say Kevin Garnett because at the end of the day, Charles Barkley was the person that you wanted to hear. They finally let loose in the 80s, and Charles Barkley is the reason why. You wouldn't have had a Kevin Garnett being able to do what he did if you didn't have Charles Barkley. Yes, you had Wilt Chamberlain saying what he said at times. You had Bill Russell doing what he did. Dr. J even had his personality out there. But Charles Barkley hit different. He really did. He hit far different. He was closer akin to Rick Barry or possibly Pistol Pete, but more Rick Barry. But Charles Barkley was his own self, and Sophie Cunningham is that too. And let me tell you something. This is the kind of person that you need to be putting front and center if you're the WNBA, right next to, well, not necessarily front and center. She needs to be standing right beside Caitlin Clark, like I said, especially after that interview with Sue Bird. That interview with Sue Bird was amazing. And if you haven't heard it yet, you need to get to it. But tell me what you think. Do you agree with me? Do you think that Sophie Cunningham is more akin to Charles Barkley than she is to any of the others? That's what I think. By the way, hit like and subscribe. This has been Paul with Redneck Sports. Y'all have a good day now, y'all. Bye.
I want to thank you for watching my video. And if you like what you saw, like, subscribe, and comment. Y'all have a good day now.